I'd like to officially welcome everyone to this workshop. I'm Julia, and I'm thrilled to see that Thrivers can bring women together from all over the world. That's the beauty of having this online. So welcome everybody. I created Thrivers to empower and inspire women to have the life they want. And I can see a few people here that came to the last workshops, and they would have heard me say this before, but I truly mean it. It really lights me up when I see women, believing in themselves to take action on the life they want. And it really drives me on to continue to build this community of women championing each other and themselves. And I think that's really important. So I'm really happy to have you all on board. Today, we are really honoured to have with us Nicole Heales, who is going to empower all of us, including myself, and so we can be in the top of our money game. When I was looking for a finance expert, I came across Nicole because everything she does is about empowering women with their money, which is brilliant for us. So yes, Nicole, I'm genuinely really appreciative and honoured to have you here and for you to have joined us for this series of finance workshops.
My pleasure.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, before you introduce yourself, Nicole, I'm just going to quickly check everyone is happy with this Q&A. So if you haven't used Zoom before, it's really great platform. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there's a Q&A icon, just so you can get familiar with it. Have a click on it and you'll see a pop-up box that'll appear. And this is where you can ask all your questions. So don't hold back. There's also a little anonymous tick box at the bottom. So we just want you to feel really at ease when you're in these workshops. It's no judgment. We just want you to, the beauty of Thrivers is that we bring you the experts so you can get as much out of this workshop as possible. So if anyone wants just to say where they're calling from, what country, what town, you can even try out the anonymous box now. Is anyone brave enough to? Okay, great. We've got some people from Somerset, where I am right now. Okay, hi there. Okay, yeah, so people in Fairlight in Sydney, that's brilliant. Someone from London, Port Macquarie, Henley-on-Thames, hi. Okay. Okay, great. Well, I can see that definitely a few of you know how to use that, so that's awesome. And so for those of you that haven't checked out thrivers.com, I just wanted to bring your attention that we published one of the best interviews we've ever had this week with Chelsea Bonner. Go and have a read and feel inspired, because she actually talks about the importance of managing your money as an entrepreneur. But I think it's applicable to everyone. So yeah, when you get time, check that out. And now we're going to pass on to Nicole, who specializes in teaching women to be clever with their money. Nicole, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I've been an advisor for the last 13 years. And I became an advisor because I couldn't find an advisor that spoke to me in the language that I could understand. So I was 35 at the time. I really had gone from being, going out and having fun, spending all my money, to turning around and going, oh, I better get organised and look towards the future. So I was reading books, I was going to seminars, doing all those sort of things, but I needed an advisor as well, just a sounding board. So I tried to find an advisor and it just was impossible for me to find. I mean, I saw 3 different advisors and they were just not really interested in me because I didn't have that much money. And so I just decided, and they're all male, nothing wrong with that, but there was no connection, and there was no interest in educating me or being particularly empathetic to the fact that I wanted to look after myself. So I started to become the advisor that I was looking for. So, long story short, years later, I just, started my own business and decided that I would focus purely on helping women get advice and becoming the advisor that I wanted when I was looking for the advice. I needed to get myself out there and be visual so that people could find me as well when they were ready for that stage. So yeah, so it's been good. Yeah, so I give holistic. I'll just explain. I give holistic advice, everything from cash flow management, superannuation, insurance, mortgage. I'm a mortgage broker as well. Debt reduction strategies, investment in the stock market, that sort of thing. So, and retirement planning. So yeah, so it's holistic, comprehensive advice, and it's been great. Yeah,
brilliant. And when we were first thinking about, so today we're going to look at how to have savvy spending. And when we were first thinking about a workshop and what we could launch for Thrivers, we were talking, Nicole, and you said how important it is for women to have, or to understand a budget, or for anyone, just to understand their spending. What would you? Just so we can understand as a very base, no matter what situation you're in. Could you just tell us a bit about how important that is?
For saving and spending?
Yeah.
Well, basically, the thing with money and time, you only have a certain amount of it. So you need to be able to make the most of both of those things to have a good life. You have to be conscious of how you spend both of those things. Time and money is really important. So it's the fundamental for success. If you don't get this part right, it's very hard to build foundations on bad spending habits. So that's why it's really good for us to go through this process today and work through the budget, how to sort of look at what you're doing now versus, and then, so basically what we're going to do is I'll just have to, can you see my screen?
Yeah, that's great.
Right. So this is just showing you that this is general information. I'm not giving you personal advice. I can't do that because I don't know you all personally, but this is general information and it's educational. So that's really it. That's me there. So you don't necessarily need to remember everything, but what I'm trying to do is teach you to feel confident to make the right decisions. And I'm going to show you around a fantastic website that once we're off this webinar, that you'll have access to some really good resources that are free and really easy to read. So that's my mission today. And this is what we're going to go through in the next hour. So the topic's called Savvy Spending. So the reality is we all have to spend. You can't live without spending. So it's about getting clever with the way you spend. So these are the topics we're going to go through. I'm going to go through them in a bit more detail, but talking about love a bargain, make the most of, try and save everywhere you can is really what we're talking about here. And Julia's going to put this up on your website, aren't you? That slide if you need it. And there's also going to be a PDF of some tips that I've got, which is a bit more detailed than this, that you can download as well. Is that right? Yeah. Yep. So that's what we're going to go through. And so I think the next thing we're going to do is have a look at perhaps the budget spreadsheet.
Yeah, great. I'm just going to, if anyone did download the budget that I sent out, then that's great. This is now the time to get it up because Nicole's going to go through it step by step. And if you didn't, just give me a couple of seconds because I'm just going to put it in the chat. So you have got the option to download it now. I'm just going to give you the link to the website. So you can either download, there's pounds and dollars there. So I'm just going to put that in the chat now. And then if you want to, Nicole's going to be doing it directly from the website, aren't you, Nicole? Which is a brilliant, what's it called? Money Smart. It's an Australian.
Money Smart. Yep. So shall I take that over now?
Yeah, I'm just going to put that up. But that website is in dollars. But if you've got that link, you'll see the pounds version so you can download. But yeah, overall, it's going to generally mean the same. So yeah, all yours, Nicole.
Okay. Is that, what have I done? Can you see the budget?
No, we're back to you again.
Okay, well, you'll have to excuse me. There we go. So this is the, it's called Money Smart, and it's actually been set up by the Australian government.
Sorry, Nicole, we're still with you. Is that correct?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, let me try.
See a flash of it. Yes, yeah.
You see it? Right.
Yeah. Is that good for everyone else?
You see that?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for letting me know, because it's difficult to see what's going on. Okay, so this is, you can see here, that's I think Julia's put that up on a link for you, but you can download that and get to this website whenever you like. So this is the main page. I just want to show you what it looked like. So there's a whole lot of stuff about super. It's got everything you could possibly want or need. It's just such a great website. Every time I get in front of a group of women or anyone really, I just tell them to come here as a first point of reference, because it's really like a textbook, money 101. So this is the homepage. You can see managing your money, borrowing, credit, insurance, all of these things here. Now, Julia, I'm just going to move you out here. The calculators and resources is where you want to go. And then you want to go down to the budget planner here, which is what you've been given earlier. So what I'm going to do is actually just show you how to use that budget planner. So that's what it looks like on screen. You can download it as a PDF and save it and do whatever you want with it. You know, there's your saving button and printing and all those sort of things. But what I'll do, I'll just go through quickly with you how to use it. The reason I like it is because it ends up being a spreadsheet. Let me just open this up. And you can put in all the different details here. I'm going to type a couple of things in so you can see how easy it is. Now, it's talking about your take-home pay, so you don't have to worry about working out tax or anything like that, which is really handy. So it's really what you're getting in your bank account. So I'll just type in a couple of things and we can work through. I'm just working off a client's details. You know, we might have incomes. If you've got some money in the bank, you can put, so that's your interest from something in the bank. That might be not weekly. This is what I like. You can go down here and change the periods that you're sort of getting paid. So you don't have to calculate anything. You just have to remember to have a look. When you go through the numbers, you'll be able to see whether that's right or not, but you'll be able to add things. This is what I like here. The reason I like this spreadsheet as much as I do, because it leaves nothing out. So it makes you realise that there are all these things that you have to spend money on. So a lot of people forget. I mean, nobody forgets rent and mortgages, obviously, because you know, you wouldn't have a house to live in. But you know, people forget things like rates, or they forget the internet, or they pretend that that's not, there's things that just get missed. So I just thought I'd go through. For example, gas in Australia, we get that sort of quarterly, so you can use a quarterly figure. Internet usually is monthly, so we get a monthly there. So you can just go muck around like that. Pay TV, so it makes you realise all of the things you're doing in that space. Mobile, home phone. One of the things I talk about in the PDF that you're going to get is, if you're not using a home line, don't pay for a home phone. Get a naked DSL line, or just have a mobile phone and run your Netflix or Stan or whatever. I'm not sure what you've got over in the UK, but I think it's similar. If you've got Foxtel and you're not using it, please get rid of it, because that is one of the biggest wastes of money that I've seen. That and storage units, can I just say? If you've got stuff in a storage unit, you don't need it, and you shouldn't be spending money renting the space to keep it somewhere. So they're two things that I see a lot of. So unless you need it, within the next couple of months. So just really good. Go through all of these, and you can see insurance, home insurance, personal insurance, car loans. I'll just put some figures in here just so something's there. Car loan, I think sometimes that would probably be more monthly. Go through other loans. If you've got credit cards, paying off debt, you might have a credit card debt, which we'll go into in another series, and we'll talk about credit card debt in a bit more detail, because that's really something that can really hamstring your ability to have a good lifestyle. It can be very distressing, and it can be very it can be embarrassing. I mean, people sort of will actually almost deny having credit card debts before they admit that they have got an issue with spending. So that's a real something that we'll cover off in another time. But I'll just go through a little bit more of these. If you put money in super above and beyond your 9.5%, if you donate to charity, you might be donating every month to a World Vision or something like that. So you just put these things in. Groceries are good because it actually splits up supermarket, fruit and veg, deli, bakery, pet food. People always forget about pet food. I'll just put in, so for example, weekly, I might spend $50 there. I might spend $80 here. Pet food, might do, you know, $100 a month or something. I don't really know how much pets cost. I don't have a pet, but no doubt the bigger the pet, the bit more the expensive they are. But and then you got clothing, cosmetics, toiletries. You might find that that's more of a sort of monthly, you know, spend. So you just keep going down here. You know, glasses, eyewear, dental, all that sort of stuff. Hobbies. You know, it's really hard to trick yourself when something's sitting there, and you can actually go into these and make changes to the wording. You have to download as a Excel spreadsheet, but you can actually change any of these words too to suit what actually suits your individual needs. This is also good, entertainment and eating out. Coffees and teas. Now that is something that I might just make a comment on. Coffees and teas, if you have 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day, it's costing about $12 a day, which adds up, you know, to quite a bit of money over the long run. I don't know if everyone sort of harps on that, but the reality is it's just a waste of money. Buy a coffee machine, or, you know, have a coffee machine in the office or whatever you do, but, you know, don't spend $10 a day on coffee. It's crazy. So try and do that. Your lunches here, this is another thing that I talk about. I think people should enjoy their lives, but maybe bring lunch in 3 days a week and buy it twice a week. You know, don't go from, you know, doing what I don't like people doing is going from trying to, you know, buying lunches every day and then trying to make their lunch every day. You need to sort of graduate into these different changes. But there's no point in buying your lunch every day. You don't need to. You can have leftovers, you know, cook something up and bring leftovers in. Cigarettes are crazy. Let's just say if you're a smoker, a lot of people don't smoke anymore, but I've got quite a few friends. I'm a bit older. I'm like 53 this year, and I've got quite a few friends that smoke a lot. One of my friends told me that they spend $100 a week on cigarettes, which would be pretty easy to do. They're $30 a packet in Australia. So that's crazy. Look at that, $5,000 a year. These are the yearly costs here. That's what starts adding up, and you can see from the yearly costs where you can really start making some changes. Bars and clubs, restaurants, books, all of those kind of things. Holidays, you know, most people think about, you know, holidays, but really be honest about how much you spend on a holiday. Don't just add in the, you know, airfares and the hotels, add in the extra drink. You know, everybody drinks more on a holiday. Everyone eats more on a holiday. You may not go shopping, you know, for clothes or things like that. I particularly don't go shopping on a holiday. I don't like it. So, but I do, you know, spend a lot more on the day-to-day stuff. So make sure that you're quite accurate with those sort of things. You know, celebrations and gifts, that's another area that I see that you could really save some money. So I really like the idea of homemade gifts. I love them. You know, I think that's such a nice thing to do. You know, I know it's old-fashioned, but it's such a nice way to show your appreciation of someone, that you've actually spent your time, which is precious, making something for somebody that you care about. I think that's speaks volumes about the sort of relationship you have with them. So that's a really good way of reducing some costs there every year, is to think about, even if it's a box of chocolate, or, you know, you can make chocolates at home, or, you know, chutney, or whatever it is, Christmas stuff, you know, that people love. And birthdays, who doesn't love a nice birthday cake, or a home cooked meal, you know? Then it's got all of the different transport. So yeah, if you've got a car, you know, you're going to have parking that you do have to pay all the time. Parking's getting ridiculously expensive, actually. So petrol's expensive, rego and licence. But, you know, let's just say rego and licence is, I think rego is $800 in Australia, something around that. Petrol weekly, most people are paying about $60 a week in petrol. Bus and ferry, that could be $50 a week. If you're going into the city every day, fines, well, depends how well with that. Airfares and whatever other might be. Has it got taxis there? Yeah, so that's interesting. It doesn't actually mention the word taxis. I've never noticed that before, but that could be Uber, could be taxis, whatever. Let's just put $50 a week in there. Then you've got children. I'm not sure what age everybody is on the webinar, but there may be you may have kids yourself, or you may be an auntie, or you may be your friends may be having children. So there's all these different things here. School fees become, an expense as the kids get older. That wouldn't be weekly, but it might be annually. School uniforms, you could think of that every season. You could go, oh, okay, well, it costs $400 for winter uniforms because there's more of it, but less than, so I don't know, you just work out what that might be. But the reason I'm just going through these slowly is just to show you that there's so much detail there that's really hard for you to trick yourself. I don't want people having smoke and mirrors when they're doing their budgeting. So a lot of people just forget things, and it's not necessarily deliberate, but it's just very easy to forget about the pet food and the the makeup or the haircuts and things like that. So basically what it does then is it shows you that's your income. That's your income. So that's the weekly income plus your savings. That's your interest from a savings account perhaps. And then it goes through and actually deducts automatically what you've been taking out. So this is just a really quick example, but basically what it shows you in the summary is that your budget is in surplus. This budget is necessarily in surplus. So you're making this much money, your expenses are that, you've got that much left over. Now, clearly, that's just a really quick example. But what I like about it is that not only does it give you all these detail, but what it does is it then breaks it up into something that's pictorial, which is a lot easier to see and use. And most people are more prone to understand things if they're presented in visual aids. And so then you can sort of muck around with that. You can change it. You can change it every year or every season. Have a look at this. I'd recommend you did 3 months. Just do a 3 month, or do it for a month, but just to have a look at all your old bills, have a look at your credit card statements, have a look at all that, and see whether you can sort of get around finding out where your money is going. So that's the first step of financial literacy, really, is understanding how much you make and where is it going. So this is sort of saying the home and utilities costing more. That's likely to be the case for most people because rents and mortgages are so expensive. If you're seeing that, I mean, I haven't really filled this out that people are going out. If you're this pink entertainment, for example, is a little bit out of balance, then that is quite an easy thing to cut back on. It's easy to make the right decisions to stay home or to stop spending money on entertainment and eating out. It's not so easy to do that with home and utilities and children, for example. Transport's easy enough. You can always catch public transport rather than taxis and Ubers. But I just think that's a really good visual representation. And then the other thing that it's got here, if these numbers don't actually make, if you actually saying, oh, okay, well, this budget is saying I'm actually saving $50,000 a year. Well, most people don't do that, but let's say the budget's saying you can save $10,000 a year and you don't have that in your bank account. Well, then something's not right. So either the budget's out or you've forgotten some spending or you're just spending on miscellaneous things that you just actually have virtually no idea where they're going. They are literally that money is disappearing into the ether, and you actually can't even go back a step and work out where that money's gone. And that's a real problem because you need to be consciously thinking about this stuff, and money just can't go missing. It's gone. You've spent it somewhere. So it's taking away the smoke and mirrors, if you know what I mean. So hopefully that's helpful. There's another thing here that's great, which is a track my spend. I think you put it on your, download it off your iTunes or Apple Store, whatever it is. If you put that on your iPhone or your smartphone, and then you can actually track your spend as you're going along if you want to. So instead of sitting down and spending a couple of hours going through a budget, it really only takes a couple of hours if you keep your paperwork. It's the other thing. If you haven't kept your paperwork, if you haven't kept your bills and your utilities and things like that, what I would suggest is that you start doing that, or at least download a credit card statement or a bank statement, and you'll be able to understand from that bank statement where those monies, what you've spent on what. So that's the number one. That's the first thing to do. So has anyone got any questions on that? Can I
Nicole,
stop sharing my screen?
and Nicole,
Yep.
could you go back to the budget a second, just so we can see where you entered, just from the top, just to make sure everyone's happy with each section.
Yep.
So I know I talked to you about this before, but what about when it comes to percentages, when people are trying to say, look at, you know, what they should spend on their rent, for instance, compared to their overall salary. I know we talked about percentages, but what would you suggest to people when they're trying to think about what they should be allowing for their rent and what they should be?
Look, you know, I think so. I go back. The only time I use percentages is in savings. So I go the other way. I don't say how much you should be spending on rent. Sometimes it depends where you live. It's very hard for someone in Sydney to have cheap rent. And no doubt in London. And if you're single, you're going to be paying a lot more, and living by yourself, you're going to be paying a lot more rent than somebody that's in a relationship and you've got some help with rent. So I don't like to think of it like that. What I sort of go back, if I use percentages, I go back and say, really, you need to be saving 10% of your income. So if you can't save 10% of your income with what you're doing, then you need to look at other things. So rent, I wouldn't say you'd want to be paying more than 20 or 25% on rent or mortgages. That's kind of a rough estimate of what would give you enough money to have a good lifestyle. You know, rent is something, it's a necessary spend, and it's really hard these days to save money on rent. But I mean, you know, if you're trying to save, the issue with rent is if you're trying to buy a house and pay rent, it's really difficult. It's really hard to get the money together to get a deposit for your own place. So if you're in that space and you need to start, if you want to buy a house, you don't have to, you certainly don't have to, but if you want to try and buy a house and save for a deposit, then I would suggest your rent needs to be as small as possible. So you need to live somewhere that you don't necessarily want to live forever, and you need to save as much as you can at that point in time, because the reality of money is that every choice you make with your money and your time, you know, if you're spending too much money on rent, then it's going to take you maybe 2 or 3 times longer to actually buy the house that you want to live in, or the flat that you want to live in, or go on the holiday that you want to go on, or, you know, any of the things that actually make you feel happy. So I think, you know, the lower the rent, the better, to be honest, because you're paying somebody else's lifestyle and mortgage off at that point. So share with friends if you're trying to save for a big deposit or for a big holiday. That would be my number one thing. It's very difficult to, I mean, I live by myself. I've bought myself a flat in Melbourne, but before that I shared with people. I always had a budget of $250 a week. That was my sort of thing. $250 a week, that'll be what I want to spend on my rent. This is a while ago. So maybe you have that in mind. So what would make you feel comfortable? So would $300 sound reasonable if you're sharing a room in a you know, an apartment with another person, or in a group house, or whatever? So if you live by yourself, you'd be unlikely to get, you'd be paying $450 a week. So, you know, it's all circumstantial, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess for people, and please feel free to ask your questions. If there's anything that's coming up for you, please just go and throw them in the Q&A, because I know there's a few things that questions that I have, just to make sure. So on this budget, I mean, sometimes a budget can be very confronting if you haven't actually put in all those details. Like you said, you kind of browse over the coffees that you buy each week, and you know, the lunches that you end up getting, and I know that there are some great apps. I mean, many times I've downloaded apps and tracked what I spend, so that really helps in literally putting everything you spend to get some, so you can measure it. But what if someone's, you know, trying to get control of their finances and they have got a lot of credit card debt, and I know we're going to be covering this. What are the first ways, if you've entered all that out and there's no way right now of saving that 10% that you suggest aiming for, where do we start so we can start to get control of that again?
So you need to start looking at your discretionary spending. So so the rent, I mean, the rent will be one thing or another. Where you're going to look, where you're going to find the savings is looking at, bundling your utilities together, for example, and making sure that you pay those on time. In Australia, I mean, everybody's trying to give you, I don't know, between 20 and 30, somebody rang me up today, 38% off your credit card, off your bill if you pay on time. So there are all these sort of deals out there at the moment. Everybody's trying to get the, get your business. So I would be looking at, so the things that and I'll probably just go through that, that sheet if you want me to. Would that make sense? Just if you put that up and I'll go through that, because these are really so shall I just, do you take the screen back?
I can get that up. Hang on a second. If anyone's got some questions about the budget, just please throw them up. We can tackle them straight after this.
Is there an English version? Oh, I see, for the pounds, yeah. I don't know whether there's an English version. You might have to have a look at that.
I did put, we did make a pounds version if you're on the Thrivhers website. So there is a template, but I did have a quick look for an English online budget tracker, like you just showed us the Australian one, and it looked like it was just another Excel to download. But there are some, I'm just going to share my screen.
To be honest, that's just the one that I like. I send that out to my clients because I like the visual, and I think I like all the line items. There's no reason why you can't put your own Excel spreadsheet together. Some people just don't do it. So, what did somebody say? Avocado on toast. Yeah. So, but things like Google budget planner, Google, spreadsheet for spending something, there will be other tools around. I mean, they're pretty easy to find. I just sort of brought that up because not only is that's the sort of first thing about that screen, but that whole website's got so much information that's so useful. So if you have a question about anything to do with your finances, that's the first place I would recommend you go, and you will find you'll have some kind of you'll have some kind of something will help you there. Something will bring some knowledge to. It might be about super, it could be about credit card debt, it could be about a million other things. But so this is really what I just put this together just as a little go-to sheet for you for some tips about how to actually reduce some of this spending, this discretionary spending. So shopping that's good for you. So basically trying to shop around and get a bargain. That's really what that's about. So bank accounts. I've seen people with 8 bank accounts. Now, there's books out there that say you should be siloing your savings. So you've got one for a holiday and one for this and one for that. Now, if that's the only way you can actually save, that's fine. But, make sure you don't have too many. Make sure if you've got a few bank accounts, they all should be there for a reason. There shouldn't be anything sitting there just because you can't be bothered. Or that you haven't had a look at it, or because all of these bank accounts, you do pay fees on them. On my bank account with ANZ, I pay $5 a month on. You wouldn't want to have those. You wouldn't want to have 4 of those going on every. That's just a waste of money. So consolidate your bank accounts. Banks are making more than enough money out of us. They don't need extra fees from being lazy and not going and cleaning up your bank account. So that's the first one. And mobile phones and internet plans. Okay, so there's a couple of things there. So as I think I mentioned earlier, is about if you're not using a landline, don't have one. You can get a naked DSL for your internet. Depending on whether you download a lot of people get unlimited or get an unlimited download package so that you're not paying too much for it. You need to look at, don't just take what's been offered. Have a look at the usage of what you're doing, and if you're not actually going close to your limit, reduce the amount that you're spending every month. So it goes for your mobile phone as well. People, if you're only making, up to 800 calls a month or whatever it is, and you're paying for an unlimited calls that it's costing you $40 or $50 extra a month, that's just, don't do it. It's not worth it. And save that towards something else, my big excitement is holidays and travel. That's where I value my my spending. That's where I cut down all my unnecessary spending so that I can have holidays and enjoy my holidays when I'm away. And I'll get to that in a minute. So really with spending, what you want to do is say, what makes you the happiest? What makes your life happy? And then make the choice, if you're going and spending unnecessarily or just spending unconsciously, that when you go and do that, you're going, is this getting me closer to my goal or is it getting me further away from my goal? And if you ask yourself that question over and over again and make that as a habit, you will actually get into a process of going, I don't need that. Actually, I don't need that. I don't need that either, you know, but I do want a holiday, or I do want to buy a new car, or I do want to buy a house, or, you know, I'd rather put some more money in my super, or I want to pay off my credit card, you know, and you start making conscious decisions about how you're spending your money. So that's really what I'm trying to get at. The last thing about that internet thing is, why do you need a new smartphone every 2 years? Okay, I get it that, iPhones sort of run out of juice after 2 years, and sometimes you have to upgrade. But I think you can get new batteries. But I've got people that've got new phones, an iPad, and a laptop, and everything else going on. You just don't need that many things going. You just go get a good iPhone and just try and be. The reason I'm saying all these things is because life is expensive, and it's getting harder and harder and harder for people to save money and actually feel comfortable and financially secure and resilient. And the reason being is because everything's expensive, and we're living a lifestyle that is way beyond what our parents used to live. It's beyond what people lived in the 70s and 80s. Credit only came out mid-80s. I mean, I remember when bank cards came out and credit cards came out. Before that, you just had the finite amount. You had an amount of money that you made and you spent it. And so once you'd run out of it, that was it. And it was a much easier lifestyle, and it was a much easier time because people didn't get themselves into all sorts of debt, you know. So I'm trying to get people back on that track, because that's really how you've got to live. You've got to live within your means, and you've got to save 10% of your money. So if we get back down here, we've got the utilities. Look at your gas and electricity, water bills, all those sort of stuff. Bundle them together. Find a provider that offers a big discount for paying your bills on time. You may have a mortgage. I don't know what people's individual circumstances are on the call today. But if you've got a mortgage, go and see a mortgage broker and see if you can get a better deal. I'll guarantee, I am a mortgage broker. I can tell you right now that none of the 4 big banks, have the best rates. So go to see a broker. The brokers work for you and not for the banks, and they will do the research for you. And they can't move you out of a loan into a less. They won't move you unless there's a benefit for you. And obviously you're not going to move yourself out of a loan because there's paperwork involved and all that, unless there's some financial benefit for you. So, but if you've got a mortgage and you're paying more than 4% or really low 4%, 3%, go and see someone and have a review on that, because that could save you thousands of dollars a year as well. So then you got cars. So people like cars. People seem to upgrade cars not quite as often as their phones, but close enough. So people are upgrading cars every couple of years. I don't know why, but they do. So if you're going to buy a car, I always say go for an ex-demo or one that's a couple of years old if you can. Or if you really want a new car, then buy an Asian car over a European car. So Asian cars are a lot cheaper, and they're a lot cheaper to maintain. The cost of running a European car in Australia, I'm not saying the UK, obviously they'll be different, but the cost of running a European car in Australia is just ridiculous because of the tax. It's got nothing to do with the fact that the car is a better car, even though it may be. The reality is it's the tax on the parts, it's all of that thing. So, and also, if you're buying a car that's more expensive, then you've got a higher loan, you're paying more in maintenance, and you're also paying more in insurance. So it spirals up, you know. So, you know, and if you don't actually use a car, if you're living in a city and you're actually catching public transport to work most days, and most people in the city do, unless you've got a, high paying job and you may have a car park. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to afford drive your car into the city and park. You couldn't do it. So think about that. Do you use your car that often? Do you need, if there's two of you, do you need two cars? Would it be good to look at the go-get cars? Have you seen those around, those green cars, that you can borrow? Do you want, if you're just actually going on a holiday or road trip once a month, would it be cheaper to hire a car when you want to do those things, So think about that kind of, what I'm trying to do is make you aware of your choices so that I've had a client 2 weeks ago that could not get her loan refinanced and or buy another property because she just bought a new Mercedes. So she had actually stopped her ability to buy another house, another investment property, and she's on good salary because she bought a car that is so expensive that she now can't get a loan big enough to buy another property. So that is just she's not going to do that again, but that was a real eye-opener for her because the serviceability had gone because she's spending too much money on a car. Cars go down in value, so they're not an asset. They're actually a liability at the end of the day. So,
Nicole,
yep.
I'm just conscious we've only got about 5 minutes left. So
yeah, perfect.
We're going to put this sheet up on the website. So I just wanted to get through some of these questions because there's some really great ones that have come.
Okay. Well, the people can just read through that then if you want to.
Yeah, fantastic. Someone said, what percentage of your salary should you be saving for retirement to live the lifestyle you currently have?
15, just as a number. So at the moment you're saving 9.5. So that's not enough. That's not going to be enough for anyone. So 15 would be about right, and more if you can. So, but 15 would be the sort of like mark, yeah.
Okay,
the
and
market
I
I'd
guess
go for.
People in the UK, I mean, I don't even know what the percentage is, but I guess that's 15% if you're putting that away, and if you're, if your super or your current pension plan isn't doing that, you just need to put away the extra and choose to do that. Yeah,
I mean, it's not enough, 15 would be, 20 would be good because it depends when you want to retire and what sort of a lifestyle you want, but 15 is definitely doable for everyone. It's just for Australians, it's only an extra 5% of your salary, you won't even notice it.
Does that include, I mean, I feel like this is another topic in itself, but does that include like the state pension that you get on top of that? Or
look, by the time we all get to going to retirement age, there won't be much of a pension. I don't think anyone should be really considering that in their planning, particularly if everyone's young on this webinar. So what the 15% is it's 9.5% that your employer puts into your super, and then your extra 5%. So it's 15.5, get it up to 15 to combination. So I mean, look, let me tell you the full pension in Australia for an aged pension is $21,000 a year. That's the full pension. That's the maximum. So anyone that can live on that, that's why there is, you need to consider how you want to live in the future. So you need to think about the now, and you need to think about yourself in the future. And you do not want to end up on $21,000 a year, scratching around trying to survive. When you're old, you may have health issues and all those kind of things. Yeah. So it's such a small amount of money that it's not worth, to me, I feel that people need to even just pretend it's not even there. And if you pretend that's not even there, then you're going to do yourself a much better service by actually doing what you need to do to get ahead to have the lifestyle you want, because the pension's not going to do it for you.
Someone said, would you recommend not having a credit card or any credit
Absolutely.
card?
Yep. I don't like credit cards.
Look, unless credit for buying a house, for instance.
What's that?
What about getting positive credit for buying a house, for instance?
Well, you could buy something on hire purchase. You could buy your new lounge on a high, there's sort of, you can get a credit card that sort of pays it off over a certain amount of time. I mean, I don't know. Well, okay, put it this way: if you need to have a credit card for credit history, then get one that's $2,000 limit and use it and pay it off every month. Show the banks that you actually have good credit and good discipline around money. Don't get a $10,000 credit card, because what happens is your mind plays tricks on you, right? So your mind thinks completely different. If you've got $200 in your wallet versus a $10,000 credit card limit, you don't think the same way. That's how they've made them. You know, the banks have made the credit cards. They have made more money on credit cards, and it's actually quite disgusting. So if you need a credit card, get a small credit card with a small limit that you know you can pay off every month, and then you won't get yourself into any trouble. Okay. It's when you start creating a debt that keeps, going over every month. The average credit card in Australia is balance is $4,300. It's on that website. We can do it. We will go back into this another day. Yeah. But it would take you 20, if you just paid the minimum off, it'd take you 25 years to pay that off.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
So, and if you are in, if you have got lots of credit card debt, I guess you're saying the first thing is just focus on getting that off every month, and then start afresh and get the just.
You can't have savings in a credit card debt. So the reality is your credit cards, anything between 10 and 18 or 20% is what the interest you're paying. The highest interest I've seen in Australia is about 2.8 on an online savings account at the moment. So there is no point in having money sitting making 2.8% of interest when you've got you're paying 16%. So just a pure maths thing is that why wouldn't you do that? So yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to have to call it a day there, just because we've run out of time. But if you do have any more questions, can they find your contact details, Nicole, on your website? Because I can just there's contact us, and there's a button on my front page, and then a contact us. So you're very welcome to log in and get put onto my newsletter. I've got a Facebook page, which is Nicole Heales Financial, which probably gets updated. That, and Instagram, which is Nicole Heales, and LinkedIn as well. So if you want to sort of connect and get things, they're probably more frequently updated than my newsletters, to be honest. I think newsletters are getting a little bit, I don't know, people don't have as much time to read newsletters when you've got 4 articles. When if you get one in a week, it's a little bit easier to sort of drip feed. So so you're very welcome to join any of those things. That's all free information, but use that Money Web Smart site, and I'll be happy to listen. We can have a really, an hour's talk about credit card debt if you like, or car loan debt, or mortgages. We can talk about debt for a whole now. We are talking about it for a whole day, really. But yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, for anyone, so I think we can gather from that it'd be the first place to start is download one of the great apps and just track your spending, just to have some visibility on exactly what it is that you spend, like what are your incomings and out. And even though it might seem scary, it's actually a really empowering thing to do, just knowing where you are and then building on that. The point of these finance workshops isn't to scare everyone, it's just to gently bring that into our conscious. So when we do pay for things, we're thinking about that more consciously, instead of just thinking, oh, I've had a terrible day, I deserve to buy 2 bottles of wine, or go out, maybe buy the bottles of wine actually instead of going out, just those little changes so you don't feel like you're depriving yourself. But we are going to be coming back with Nicole in a month's time or so. And I think we're actually going to be focusing on credit card debt. So if that is something that is super scary for you, or any debt actually, we're going to be focusing on that entirely. And then we've got our next workshop coming up in 2 weeks' time, which is how to create a strategic life plan. I'm just going to put the link into that, because that is going to be amazing, because we've partnered with an executive coach who's actually going to give our audience a template, a 7-year plan template, that's actually going to be see you write down your goals, what you really want. And 7 years can seem like a long time, but actually it's enough time to achieve something amazing. So once you've got that in place, we're actually going to be coming back with Nicole, and we're going to understand how we can achieve those big life goals financially. So just getting realistic about it, because I know sometimes you think this can never happen, it's a dream inside me, and I just don't. We're actually going to be understanding how we can make that happen. So that's super exciting. So please join us for that one another 2 weeks, and keep checking in on our social media when we'll know more clearly when our next workshops with Nicole are.
Yeah, great. I'm going to join into that, the next one, your strategic life plan.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Yeah, she's really, really brilliant, Suzanne. So, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. And keep believing in yourself and striving for your goals. And we hope to see you next time. But goodbye for now.
Yeah.
Bye, Nicole. Bye.
Bye.